From being behind the pads, taking kicks that sound like gunshots, to perfecting their fighter's mental game to withstand any adversary, behind every successful fighter, there's a coach who put in that blood, sweat, and tears. Let's put the pads on ourselves this time and pay tribute to the best coaches in MMA today, starting with the man, the myth, the legend, Trevor Wittman. Needless to say, the fight game has evolved over the years. It's more about entertainment and getting that crowd pop than actually playing by the points. And honestly, as a viewer, I'm not complaining. I mean, who doesn't want to see flying knees, backflips, and elbows out of nowhere? Trevor, on the other hand, preaches MMA by the book. He's the man behind superstars Justin Gaethje and Kamaru Usman. Now that is quite the clientele. Trevor is famous for promoting the quality, not quantity philosophy. He prefers a small number of clients and gives them their undivided attention and energy, bringing the best out of all of them. And boy, does he know how to do just that. I mean, the pep talk he gave Kamaru Usman in The Anatomy of a Fighter just speaks for itself. In those few minutes behind the scenes of Wittman senseiing Usman, Trevor was dropping MMA gold. He was teaching Kamaru patience, telling him to be on his opponent without rushing, and the W will eventually come. Trevor himself was a pro fighter before putting on the coach hat. However, a hyperinflated lung caused him to cut his career short. Well, looks like it did pretty well for him, cause Wittman bagged Fan-Sided MMA's the Coach of the Year award in 2021. That said, some coaches are known for their accolades, whereas some are known for their clients, like John Kavanagh. Now, if you haven't heard of John, I completely understand. Conor McGregor is pretty notorious for stealing the spotlight, but the truth is, you can't ready a sword for war without wetting it, and who better to be Conor's whetstone than the godfather of Irish MMA.
Was the one that did damage and uppercuts here lead to the end of the night of Marcus Brimage. Outstanding UFC debut for Conor McGregor.
Kavanagh and Conor go way back, since the Straight Blast Gym in Dublin. While Conor was wreaking havoc inside the octagon, Kavanagh was putting in the work behind the scenes. John even bagged the MMA Coach of the Year award in 2017, and his backstory is something worthy of a Netflix documentary. John revealed on The Late Late Show why he decided to pursue MMA, and the reason stems from a situation which can be defined as nightmare fuel for any man. I mean, we've all seen the classic damsel in distress narrative, where the hero comes to save the day by beating the villain up in front of his love interest. In the case of Kavanagh, however, it was quite the opposite. While walking down Rathmines, Kavanagh saw a man get beat up and wanted to be the hero in front of his girlfriend at the age of 18. He jumped in the scrap only to share the receiving end of the beating, and his girlfriend was left picking up the pieces. From that moment on, John vowed to not look back and went on to be one of the greatest MMA coaches the world has seen. Though there is one coach on the list who even John Kavanagh couldn't dissect during his glory days in the MMA. Now, this is a man who doesn't need an introduction. It's Khabib Nurmagomedov. The 29-0 Dagestanian wrecking machine decided to retire from MMA following the tragic passing of his father.
Today, I want to say it was my last fight, and no way I'm gonna come here without my father.
Apparently, it was Khabib's mother who talked him out of continuing his career as a fighter. But that's the thing about warriors. They can only stay away from war for so long. Soon, the fight game eventually came calling the Dagestanian back, only this time on the sidelines. And if you thought he'd be less of a threat than when he put on the MMA gloves, you, my friend, are sadly mistaken. His fighter IQ and immense experience do wonders for his clients. The current #1 pound-for-pound and welterweight champion, Islam Makhachev, is the prime example of a teacher's talents rubbing off on his students. His prowess as a coach was on full display during Islam's win against Dan Hooker.
Dan's got his hands locked. Oh, it's in trouble. He tapped. Oh my goodness. Wow.
First off, why is it that Khabib sounds so different when he's speaking Russian? Guess we're so used to how he smeshes English that his native tongue sounds just wrong on him. Anyway, speaking of smeshing, he quite literally dictated the fight's brutal finish sequence, as if he were controlling a video game character. Khabib instructed Islam how to lock in the Kimura, and as if he saw himself in Makhachev, he finally set up his pupil for the win. What's so telling of Khabib's humility as a leader is how he kept on telling Islam to take his time during the submission. not because it would mess up the submission, but he was concerned about Dan, that Islam would break his arm. Alongside his sportsmanship, Khabib's discipline and passion are what got him on the list. But you can't really have a Best MMA Coaches video without mentioning Andreas the General Michael. Talk about clientele, check this out. Coach Andreas Michael has coached two Swedish monsters in the UFC. One has etched his reputation as a legend in the books, while the other is well on his way to becoming one of the most ferocious fighters the UFC has ever seen. That's right, Michael has coached both Alexander Gustafsson and is currently coaching the Chechen menace Khamzat Chimaev.
That might be it. Just when I say that. It's another win for Khamzat Chimaev.
And he, just like all of his clients, is indeed what we can call a beast. Fun fact, Andreas was the boxing coach for Sweden's official Olympic team. While he was training national champions, MMA athletes walked into the club, and their sheer determination and work ethic was enough for Andreas to make the switch. What enticed him so much about MMA fighters was that even though they were being pummeled by boxers in the club, they just kept coming back. Andreas decided to take them under his wing, and when the fighters showed progress, well, let's just say the rest was history. Andreas founded the All-Stars Training Center, which was nothing less than a literal hall of fame for global athletes. From who's who in MMA representing the gymnasium, All-Stars also won the Gym of the Year in 2013 and 2017. Michael didn't just create superstars, he made a movement, a home for fighters all around the world. That sounds all enticing, but is it better than coaching, quite literally, the greatest of all time? Yes, I'm talking about John Jones's trainer, Olympic gold medalist, and one of the few double champions in the UFC, Henry Cejudo. Gosh, that was a mouthful.
I believe I did enough to win the fourth round. Now it's 2-2. And I'm just like, I'm like spiked up, and I'm like, dude, this is it. It's 2-2.
Much like John, even Cejudo has been a befitting candidate in the MMA GOAT debate. And when he decided to make the transition into coaching, he broke the internet. After being so decorated, you'd wonder why wouldn't he call the curtains on an illustrious career? Well, according to Cejudo, he wants to give back after his years of success. Simply put, sometimes legends have to take care of legends. And besides taking care of fighters such as Davison Figueiredo, Zhang Weili, and Yuri Prohaska, boy, has he done wonders for Johnny Bones Jones. Cejudo's sheer experience radiates with the sort of approach he's taken with Bones. He breaks the norms and lets the training camp be about the athlete rather than the coach himself.
And honestly, it's like, you, Demetrius Johnson, all the guys that people like kind of emulate. Like, hey, this is what MMA is.
Anderson
GSP.
Silva, come on.
He emphasized adjusting to his fighter standards rather than the other way around. And, well, let's be honest, he deserves a medal just to be on the receiving end of those devastating kicks. After John's menacing return to the heavyweight division against Cyril Gane, you can say Cejudo's philosophy is bearing fruit. It's only the start of the calendar year, and looking at Jones's confidence, I'll call it in early, Cejudo for the Coach of the Year 2023. And those, folks, were the best coaches in MMA today.